Good morning. My name is Clotaire Tienu. I am founder and coordinator of Abarca. Today, I'm going to be your trainer, and I hope that with this lesson, we're going to enjoy and we're going to have very, very good time. So this lesson is the first part, which is introduction. I'm going to tell you more or less what we are going to do in the next two main lessons of the module. The module is called Fake News and Bullying in School. So we are going to talk here about how fake news can influence and can have impact on bullying in school. So before we start, this introduction is going to be into 2 or 3 parts. We will first talk about the history of fake news, a bit history of fake news. We are not professional in history. We will talk about some definition, but matching with reality, with some real cases. And then we will talk a bit in this introduction about 10 ways fake news can lead or can contribute to bullying. And then what shall we do? And the what shall we do is going to be introduced into the 2 next lessons. So, as I was saying, I am Clotaire, and I'm going to present you this introductory lesson on fake news and bullying in school. Well, about the introduction, we will learn into 2 concepts that seem to be connected. Fake news and bullying are 2 things that nowadays, you cannot talk of bullying without necessarily talking of fake news. And then we will define what is fake news. We will find our way, we will find our own definition on fake news, our own definition on bullying, and why at school precisely, and what is the cause of this situation. So a bit history about fake news. Fake news, the study of fake news and misinformation has a very long story, It has always been present in human society. Who never face a situation where some fake information or receive information that later will be wrong. You will find that it will be wrong. It will be wrong information. But with the rise of internet and social media, it become like so big that it's much more easier nowadays to present fake news without even knowing, if you don't have the capability to detect, or if you don't have the critical thinking, you might present a fake news without even knowing that it is fake news. And then this is difficult to say exactly when the study started about this, but we know that researchers have been studying various aspects of fake news, like including its origin, how it is spread, the impact, and the impact it can have on individual and the society in general. There are numerous academic studies and research projects focused on fake news, and some media organizations, of course, conducting like fact checkings, and there are some fact checking groups or media or NGOs that are trying to identify and combat the fake news. My PPT seems to not be working clearly. So it is nowadays a bit difficult and complicated to decide or to say exactly who started the study. But the main important thing is not to know who started this, to study this, but is to know that this clear concept of fake news started taking like the place, very big place into our society in 2016 after the US election. And it was that difficult because many wrong news have circulated, even, for example, in Spain or in Europe. It is something that we have always been having it around us, but the name fake news didn't come out until recently. So this aspect led to a huge interest, on researcher which started like media study, psychology, political science, computer science, and sociology. They began all to study fake news and start questioning themselves about what is this, the impact, what kind of impact does this have in our society. And then talking about bullying, we have the Dr. Lan Olus. You will ask me exactly why do I switch from fake news to bullying, because we are in the topic, fake news and bullying in the school. So the history of bullying is also linked, like it's also similar to fake news, because it's as old as the war, bullying, who never suffer of any kind of abuse in his life. Everybody, clearly, as you might know. But the thing started exactly in the last 20th century. But the topic bullying started with the Dr. Dan Always in Norway in 1970 and gained the attention of media amongst researchers. So Dr. Dan Always is a Norwich psychologist who began his study on bullying, and in 1980 he created a full program which started to be applied, I think, in 1983, if I remember very well. And then since his program have been spread in the entire world, Dr. Dan Always was born in 1931 and died in 2020. So in the projection, you will have the link where you can read carefully about his studies and do some research to understand what he did. But he did a very, very good study in such a way that researchers started getting interest in the bullying as topic, the causes, the consequences, and the way to prevent it. Because it was not now like just to study the cause, the consequences, but it was also the way to prevent the bullying. So it had become then an interdisciplinary field of study with research range from different disciplines like psychology, sociology, education, public health, which is helping us nowadays to understand the issue and address it with more professionalism. This is the reason we introduce this into this training, into this project, of course, because we're talking about this. So some basic definition about fake news, fake news is a false and misleading information that is presented as if it was real, as if it was true. It can be spread through various media, such as websites, social media, or even traditional news outlet like newspapers, even from a neighbor to a neighbor, from a friend to a friend, just speaking like this and spread the fake news. So it is largely inaccurate, misleading, unsubstantiated, manipulated, and completely fabricated, that is being passed off a truthful, authoritative, and accurate. This was published, like, to complete the definition, in the library High Tech News by Key Anderson in 2018. So it can spread misinformation, which can lead to confusion or misunderstanding about important issue or events. We have the COVID recently. We still have the crisis situation with Russia, with the rise of prices. Everyone is saying what he wants. But these are still like you receive the information and you have to process it. It can undermine the truth in the media and in its institution. And this is very confusing because most of our young people are connected. You young people, the young person that is following this training, you're connected with this every day because in school, you're more younger. You are belonging into another generation that ours, for example, that where you are very exposed to a wide numerous of false information coming to you. And this leads young people to lack of confidence in the information and the source of that, And this can also influence student perception of the reality, false sense of reality, which can distort the student perception of the world around them. And it can be used also to manipulate opinion, to manipulate even behavior. And when we talk about behavior, you can direct it directly to the topic, to the main topic of our lessons. So it is difficult to quantify the prevalence of fake news in school as it depends on various factors such as school or country where, like the area. It will depend also of the source of information where the student are exposed. It will depend also on the culture, the belief, the predominance, for example, of religions, of gender present in the school. So it really varies from different aspects that we should study carefully or we should take into consideration while talking of the topic of the fake news. And then let's talk about bullying. What is bullying? You might see a lot of words, abuse, cyberbullying, intimidation, domination, force, verbal, female problems, violence, trait, fears, stress, trait, physical attack, social harassment, sexual harassment, bullying, aggressivity, aggression. We might see a lot of words like this, which might be characteristic of bullying. But let us approach this topic talking of famous people. Let's take, for example, Justin Timberlake. He's a famous, no? Justin Timberlake admitted that the threat that caused him to be bullied were ultimately the same ones that contributed to his fame. He encouraged people to persist in their endeavor, even if they might rub some people the wrong way. He was only 10 years when he suffered from bullying, but see from where he went to be now. Why am I using some famous people? I'm not going to use some random example. I'm using famous people for us young people or for us parents or for us teachers who are following this session to understand where we have to bring our student to be. So when we are talking of fighting or prevent this phenomenon, it's true that prevention is good, but it's always happening, even with the best prevention program. Justin Bieber also experienced numerous of instances of cyberbullying, which has prompted him to speak out again during his childhood. In support to CNN documentary on bullying, Bieber contributed a song to the soundtrack called Born to Be Somebody. Additionally, in 2012, Bieber participated in an anti-bullying public service announcement aimed at educating students about the danger of cyberbullying. Lady Gaga, humiliated, isolated. Lady Gaga experienced bullying in silence as a teenager. If there is one thing the singer is proud of, is to talk about the mental problems she has suffered for years, fighting for society to care more about her mental health and stop treating the subject as taboo. Yes, taboo is very insightful. All what we are hearing about bullying. So, how can fake news contribute to bullying? We'll list just 10 ways. You know, misinformation. I will take stereotyping, for example. Fake news can perpetuate harmful stereotype, which can lead to prejudice, discrimination against certain group of people. Like when we are talking about racism or bullying from racism, because maybe a student have hear story about maybe a black or a Chinese or an Indian, a fake story which he didn't take time to go and check if it was true, and he just start like getting angry, getting mad, and going for that person in the school. So we should be careful, for example, as teacher, as parent, the example we are taking, even with jokes, speaking about other, for example, other tribe, other cultures, because young people or kids they get that so fast in such a way that tomorrow they will start counting. I'm taking this example from my daughter that is just 3 years. I am caring nowadays about what I should speak when she's close, or I should change the language and use the language that she doesn't understand to speak to another person. Because if she understands tomorrow, she start repeating. And when she start repeating, it's difficult for you to tell her that this is not true. Because she will tell you, you, my father, you never lie. So if you say this, means that it is true. And this is how, unconsciously, we are creating stereotyping, in our society without knowing. This is very recent, and this happened like 2-3 days ago. About cyberbullying, fake news can be used to spread false or embarrassing information about someone online, which can lead to cyberbullying. Isolation, fake news can be used to spread false information or damaging information about a person or a group, which can lead to social isolation or social exclusion in the group. And harassment, what do we say about harassment? I'm not going to come back to it again. And then we have reputation damage, we have manipulation, inciting to violence, we have physical and psychological harm. We have suicidal urge, like when someone is harassed, when someone is isolated, excluded, and people are punching the person, people are going to the person, a young person who does not have any way, any other resource, can have a strong desire for society. How many young people in news it appearing almost every day, young people like teenagers, 15 years, 14 years, 13 years, that are tired of living because of being victims of bullying in their school. And we should do something about this. So then what? We found that it is important for school students to be aware about fake news and to learn how to critically evaluate the information they encounter, they receive. This can help them to become more informed and responsible citizens and protect themselves and their relative for being misled. But it is also important for school teachers, school administration, and the society in general to be aware about the potential ways of which fake news can strongly contribute to bullying, and to take some steps to address and prevent it. And this, we are going to speak in the next session about understanding fake news and their impact on the bullying, with the three topics you are seeing on the screen. And we talk also about how to combat, how to fight fake news and addressing bullying issue in school with some important tips. So thank you for attending this introductory session, and see you soon.